Hey, this is G from Robust Mentality. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't seen my other video, please check out the channel introduction. It'll give you an idea of who I am and what I plan to talk about and kind of the structure of what I plan on doing. If not, this is Let's Talk, my series where it's just going to be armchair and street philosophy, as well as a couple of life goals, life coaching tips, and videos just for general self-improvement. I like to share content. I want to make sure everyone has accessibility to find what they need to be able to live the best life that they can. And I don't want to keep that only behind my paid content, like my coaching services or whatever else I may put out. So these videos are completely free. They're going to be very low edits. It's going to be just one takes of me rambling on for probably 10 minutes or so. So feel free to leave this on in the background. If you want to look at my face, I wouldn't blame you. So feel free to leave the video on as well. And if you want it to be more of a in-person to person conversation, but again, it's mostly going to be talking. It's mostly going to be ideas. I'd love to hear what you think. So please comment, like, subscribe, start a conversation in the comments, respect everyone else, please. Share your ideas and perspectives, and I'll respond to as many as I can. So let's get into the actual topic of the video. What do I mean by gray area? Well, a lot of my philosophy and a lot of my ideals revolve around the idea of finding the gray area, right? Most people, and we'll tie this back into self-improvement in a little while, but most people end up having this black and white mentality about life. You know, you'll find one bad apple and think the whole tree's rotten. You'll find, one girl who did you wrong, and now all of a sudden every girl's a bad person, or one guy who did you wrong, and now all of a sudden every guy's a bad person. And what happens with these extremist mentalities, is that we end up categorizing, we end up stereotyping, we end up segregating and separating a whole group of people from your available pickings, from your available choosing. And what you're looking for might actually be exactly where you're avoiding, just in a very different way, shape, or form than you're used to looking at, right? So when we think of an extremist things like, let's say, good and evil, there are some villains that we've heard that have some sympathetic approaches. Now, they're still villains because they do it the wrong way, and the means to the end is something that we wouldn't all agree with. But the end goal itself might be a noble cause. It might be to save millions. It might be to balance out the world like in a Thanos sort of thing. But the way they do it with mass genocide, well, I don't think anybody can really get behind. Now, there's also heroes or anti-heroes who do things in ways that we may not agree with, but we can't deny the fact that they're doing something just. Let's take Batman, for example. Batman's a wonderful hero who ends up breaking a lot of people's bones. Thugs, they'll break the thug's bones. He'll drop them from buildings. And, as long as they're alive, he doesn't kill, of course, but he doesn't mind maiming and harming them and injuring them a lot, whether from a petty thief to, a supervillain. Right? And he doesn't necessarily do things that we all agree with, but we know that he's a hero because he's trying to do the right thing, right? He's trying to make sure that everyone's taken care of. He's trying to make sure that he stops crime. He targets only villains, people who have done bad first, that sort of mentality. But neither of the two examples that I gave, I would say, are extremes, right? They use intimidation and fear as their means to an end. They're not necessarily the pure-blooded heroes like, let's say, Superman, who is the golden boy. He'll sacrifice himself and he'll sacrifice everything he has just to make sure that things go according to justice, the laws, and the ways of the world. He would be an extreme example of good, right? But he has the power to be able to do so. And there's extreme examples of bad that I can't come up with off the top of my head, but I'm sure you guys get the point. So why is it important to think in gray areas, right? Like, why do we have to do this? Why is it important for us to transition? And just give me a second. I want to make sure everything's still recording. Had to record this twice already. So why is it important to do all that? Well, it's important because if we don't, what we end up doing is neglecting ourselves or idolizing ourselves. Ooh, I wish I could speak. And what happens is, self-improvement takes different forms. Now, I'm sure you guys have viewed a bunch of YouTube videos and a bunch of Instagram reels and all this stuff. Self-improvement is a very major concept going on right now in the revolution of the world as we seek therapy, as we seek to improve ourselves, as we seek more for ourselves, and everyone's gaining this individualistic mindset. I don't think this is a bad thing by any means. Again, I think in gray areas that Without self improvement, a lot of people would be husk or mindless and just following the same routines that they've always followed, expecting a different result. Now, that's insanity. Well, in contrast, though, self improvement can take a very vain alpha pill, mentality approach to it, and we want to avoid that. Now, I'm not saying there isn't good concepts within the alpha mentality, and I'm not saying there's not good concepts within the whole selfless approach. But by taking the best of both worlds and making a gray area in between, you can end up being the best of both parties. You can remove the bad and end up becoming as whole as possible. So, self improvement, just kind of going into the nature of self improvement for a second. I know we've seen videos where they're like, hey, go to monk mode, go into self isolation, go into a place where no one can touch you, sacrifice everything for yourself. If it isn't fulfilling your purpose, if it isn't abiding by your will, drop it, leave it behind, become untouchable, unrecognizable. And although there's some principles there that I do wholeheartedly agree with, I think it's very important to make the distinction between, improving yourself and, again, going into isolation and punishing yourself. Self-improvement should never be about punishment. It's a form of self-care. It's a way to make sure that you're the best you that you can possibly be. And if it ever causes some negative feelings or feelings of hollowness and emptiness or resentment, then you're probably not doing it right. That's not an improvement. I'd call that negative, if anything, right? Now, let's talk about the other extreme, being completely selfless. A lot of people find their purpose in giving to others, right? I do too. I'm a life coach and I'm making these videos so I can share ideas with everyone else. But the problem with that is when you end up giving yourself to others, giving away all of yourself, you end up at that same empty, hollow feeling. Why? Because you've saved nothing for yourself. You haven't achieved anything for yourself, your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations, right? I'm a little bit more spiritual. I'm not super spiritual, but I am very spiritual into Christianity. And a lot of the analogies they use is the idea of a cup, right? You are a cup in which others pour into you and you pour into others. But the important element that a lot of people forget is that a broken cup can't hold any water. And I'm going to repeat that. A broken cup can't hold any water. If you don't take care of yourselves and you have holes in your cups or cracks, the water, the fluid, the achievements and purpose and gifts that you have and can give to other people and share with the world will leak out. You will lose it because you don't have the ability to retain water, right? So it's important not only for that cup to be in good condition, that cup to not have any major cracks or flaws or holes in it, right? Which is the element of self-improvement, but to also be a cup. It still has to be a cup. It still has to hold liquid. It still has to pour into others. It still has to be a retainer. And by seeking that balance, right, between selflessness and selfishness, you'll be able to be a cup, a full cup, where you can both hold liquid, you can fulfill yourself, you can pour into others, you can fulfill others, and you're not leaking and you're not leaving anything behind. Going into that water analogy real quick again, I want you to realize that the same water that you can drink, the same water that nourishes your body and keeps you alive, can drown you if taken in too much. But at the same time, avoiding water just because it can drown you entirely, well, you won't last very long either without any water. So it's important to seek that balance. You need to drink enough water. If you're someone who's bodybuilding and on creatine a lot, you need to drink even more water than the average person. If you're someone who's sedentary and doesn't do much, you can probably get away with a bare minimum of water, depending on your medication, depending on this, that, and the other, your water retention and water weight, if you're on a diet, right? Your goals with water are completely different. So that's why it's important to think in nuance. That's why it's important to think in gray areas. That's why it's always to keep a gray mindset. Now, the color gray is usually associated with depression, and I'm not a huge fan of that just because I think there's plenty of shades of gray. And although it's a very neutral, muted color, it's important to realize that it's a transition between the brightest whites and the darkest darks. And it's really important to realize that without those transitions, all we would be left with is a really bright white and really dark black, right? So, all in all, I don't want to ramble completely too long. I think that the problem with self-improvement in its current stage is that it's been taken to the extreme. And often on social media, everything is taken to its extreme. It's a highlight reel. You see the best and the worst of everything. It's either egocentric and, vanity in the form of motivation and self improvement, or it's selflessness and, resigning your principles, values, and beliefs to the side just so that way you can make sure that everyone else is happy and you're accepting and loving of everyone. I don't think either answer is right. I think you should love a lot of people. I think you should accept a lot of people. I think you should forgive a lot of people. But I also think it's important to respect yourself, to love yourself, to treat yourself with the same treatment that you're willing to give to other people. Because without that gray area and balance, all that'll end up is you depressed, suicidal, leaving it all behind. And truthfully, it's your life. You only get one chance at this. I think we've all heard the famous quote, but I'll recite it anyways. A man has two lives, one when he is born and the other when he realizes he only has one. This should be the realization that you should treat yourself with respect because you only have one. And you should seek that sense of fulfillment, which I'll talk about in my video, What is Purpose, that I'll be releasing a little bit later. But you should seek that sense of fulfillment. You should seek that purpose, right? But it's not in the sense of an emotion. It's not in the sense of a temporary pleasure. And it's not in the sense of eternal solitude and, self-discipline and self-torture, right? It's in the balance of finding that gray area. So seek the gray, right? Don't torture yourself and don't resign yourself to the ways of the world. Take control of what you can take control of. And that's you. You're the only thing you have control of. And that means you should treat yourself with respect. You should be someone who treats others with respect. You should take care of yourself, and you should be someone that takes care of others. But you should not expect the world to take care of you. You should not expect the world to hate you. It is all just a projection of who you are inside, which is why it's so important to start within and take care of yourself from the beginning. Well, that was my little tirade. I appreciate you watching this far. Again, just let me know how you feel, if the audio is too loud, if I'm a little bit too close to the mic, XYZ, and whatever you need me to do. Again, as the channel evolves, I'll be planning on improving things, maybe editing a little bit more and making things a little bit more fluid. But I just like this one-on-one conversation and this Let's Talk series. It's unedited. It's a conversation with someone, a little bit more of getting talked to because I can't hear you guys, but I'll hear you in the comment section and I'll reply and be able to share these ideas. And maybe when I create the playlist or the channel idea for Open Forum, which likens back to the Greek philosophers, where we can do live Q&As or I can respond to comments on videos, we can create more of a community where we discuss things and open the floor. So again, I don't want to talk too long. I appreciate you guys so much for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're interested in life coaching, robustmentality.com. The website should be coming up soon where I offer my coaching services. And then aside from that, feel free to just do whatever you need to so that way we can interact. Because again, the main priority of this channel is to create a community. It's to create ideas and perspectives for us to bounce off. There really is no right or wrong answer. There's just me, my opinions, my viewpoints on life, trying to make sure that I coach and mentor as a partner, not as a therapist and not as some psychoanalysis, psychiatrist where I'm trying to treat a brain issue, right? I want to be a partner to all of you guys. I want to be a friend to all of you guys, and I'm seeking friendship in all of you and your ideas. So thanks again for watching. I'm rambling, and I'll see you guys in the next video.